Banshee. The banshee comes from Irish folklore, with stories dating back to the early Middle Ages in Ireland. The word banshee comes from the Gaelic beansea, meaning woman of the fairy mound. She is not a killer, but a messenger. Her role is to warn families that death is near. The banshee is usually described as a pale woman with long hair, dressed in white or gray, crying or screaming into the night. This scream, called a keening, is said to sound like a mix of wailing, sobbing, and shrieking. In some versions, she appears young and beautiful, while in others she looks old and terrifying. Traditionally, only certain ancient Irish families were believed to have a personal banshee. Over time, the banshee became a symbol of unavoidable fate and a thin line between the living world and the supernatural. Cyclops. The Cyclops comes from ancient Greek mythology, with the earliest stories appearing in Homer's Odyssey. A Cyclops is a giant humanoid with a single eye in the center of its forehead, representing raw strength with little intelligence or restraint. These creatures are usually depicted as living alone, herding sheep, and ignoring laws, gods, and social rules. The most famous Cyclops, Polyphemus, traps Odysseus and his men and eats them one by one. Odysseus defeats him not with force, but with cleverness, blinding the Cyclops and escaping. This contrast made the Cyclops a symbol of brute power without wisdom. Doppelganger. The doppelganger originates from German folklore, with the name literally meaning double walker. It is described as a perfect copy of a living person, sharing their appearance, voice, and mannerisms. Unlike twins or reflections, a doppelganger is supernatural and often acts independently of the original. Seeing your own doppelganger was believed to be a bad omen, signaling illness, madness, or imminent death. In some stories, doppelgangers mimic behavior to slowly replace the person they copy. This made them symbols of identity loss and inner fear. Over time, the doppelganger became a way to explore the idea that humans have hidden selves they don't fully control. Gargoyle. The gargoyle originates from medieval European architecture, especially in France during the Middle Ages. Originally, gargoyles were stone water spouts carved to drain rainwater away from church walls. Over time, they took on a mythical role as well. They were designed to look like monsters, demons, or twisted animals, meant to scare away evil spirits. The idea was that frightening creatures could protect sacred places by keeping worse forces out. Gargoyles are usually depicted as crouched, winged, and snarling, frozen in stone. In mythology and modern fiction, they are often imagined as living statues that awaken at night. Today, gargoyles symbolize protection, fear used as defense, and the blending of religion with superstition. Hippogriff. The hippogriff comes from European medieval mythology and was first described in the 16th century by the Italian poet Ludovico Ariosto. It is a hybrid creature with the front half of an eagle and the back half of a horse. This combination is important because eagles traditionally symbolized the sky, while horses symbolized the earth. By merging the two, the hippogriff represents the impossible made possible. In stories, hippogriffs are loyal, fast, and incredibly difficult to tame. They are often ridden by heroes, showing mastery over both land and air. The creature became a symbol of imagination, freedom, and the idea that opposing forces can coexist. Jormungandr. Jormungandr comes from Norse mythology, where he is known as the world serpent. According to legend, he is one of the monstrous children of the god Loki. The gods feared his size and power, so Odin threw him into the ocean that surrounds the world. There, Jormungandr grew so large that he wrapped his body around the entire earth and bit his own tail. He is destined to fight the god Thor during Ragnarok, the end of the world. In that final battle, Thor kills the serpent but dies shortly after from its venom. Jormungandr represents chaos, inevitability, and the idea that some threats grow larger the longer they are ignored. Kelpie. The Kelpie comes from Scottish folklore and is tied to rivers, lochs, and dark stretches of water. It is a shape-shifting water spirit that most often appears as a beautiful black horse standing calmly at the water's edge. The trick is that once someone climbs onto its back, their hands stick to its skin. The Kelpie then drags its rider into the water and drowns them. In some versions, it can also appear as a handsome human to lure victims closer. Kelpies are usually described as wet, cold, and slightly unnatural, with water constantly dripping from them. The creature served as a warning to children and travelers about the dangers of unfamiliar waters. Lamia. Lamia comes from ancient Greek mythology and began as a tragic human queen. According to legend, she was loved by Zeus, which caused the goddess Hera to punish her. Hera either killed Lamia's children or cursed her to never sleep, driving her mad with grief. Over time, Lamia transformed into a monster that preyed on children. She is often described as having the upper body of a woman and the lower body of a serpent. This transformation reflects how sorrow and rage twisted her humanity. Lamia became a symbol of maternal loss turned into vengeance. In later myths, she also represented fear surrounding motherhood, jealousy, and uncontrolled desire. Leviathan. Leviathan originates from ancient Near Eastern and biblical mythology, where it is described as a massive sea serpent or dragon. In the Hebrew Bible, Leviathan represents a chaotic force of the ocean that only God can control or destroy. It is often depicted as enormous, armored, and completely unstoppable by human weapons. Some texts describe its breath as fire and its scales as impenetrable. In later medieval and modern stories, Leviathan came to represent the fear of unknown depths and of forces far beyond human control. Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga comes from Slavic folklore, especially stories from Eastern Europe and Russia. She is an ancient witch who lives deep in the forest in a hut that stands on giant chicken legs. Baba Yaga is usually depicted as an old woman with iron teeth, wild hair, and supernatural strength. Unlike many monsters, she is not purely evil or good. Sometimes she helps lost travelers with wisdom or magical tools, and other times she eats them. She flies through the air in a giant mortar, steering with a pestle and erasing her tracks with a broom. Rakshasa. The Rakshasa comes from ancient Indian mythology, especially Hindu epics like the Ramayana and Mahabharata. Rakshasas are powerful shape-shifting beings known for deception, strength, and cruelty. They are often described with fangs, claws, glowing eyes, and sometimes disturbing features like backward hands or feet. Many Rakshasas can disguise themselves as humans to manipulate, deceive, or infiltrate societies. They are usually enemies of gods and heroes, feeding on fear, violence, and chaos. However, not all Rakshasas are purely evil. Some follow honor codes or question their nature. As a symbol, the Rakshasa represents the danger of illusion, unchecked desire, and intelligence used without morality. Selkie. The Selkie comes from Celtic and Norse folklore, especially from the coastal regions of Scotland and Ireland. Selkies are seal-like beings that can shed their skin to become fully human on land. In stories, they are gentle, quiet, and deeply connected to the sea. Many myths involve humans stealing a Selkie's skin, trapping them on land, and forcing them into marriage. Even when they form families, Selkies are said to feel constant longing for the ocean. Once they recover their skin, they return to the sea, often leaving their human lives behind forever. Selkies represent themes of freedom, captivity, and the pain of living between two worlds. Succubus. The succubus comes from medieval European folklore, especially from Christian demonology. It is a female demon said to appear in dreams or at night to seduce sleeping men. Succubi are described as beautiful, alluring, and impossible to resist, using desire as their main weapon. In early stories, they were believed to drain life energy, health, or even the soul from their victims. This made them symbols of temptation and moral weakness. The myth was often used to explain sleep paralysis, nightmares, and forbidden desire. Over time, the succubus came to represent fear surrounding sexuality and the loss of self-control. Vampire. The vampire originates from Eastern European folklore, especially in the Balkans during the Middle Ages. Vampires are undead beings that survive by drinking the blood of the living. They are often described as pale, cold, and ageless, with fangs used to feed at night. Traditional myths say vampires cannot enter homes unless invited and are weakened by sunlight. Methods of stopping them included stakes through the heart, decapitation, or holy symbols. Early vampire legends were used to explain disease, sudden deaths, and bodies that didn't decay normally. Yokai. Yokai come from Japanese folklore and refer to a wide category of supernatural beings, spirits, and monsters. The word yokai roughly means strange apparition or mysterious phenomenon. Unlike single creatures, yokai can be animals, objects, humans, or pure spirits, transformed by age, emotion, or magic. Some yokai are dangerous and violent, while others are playful, helpful, or simply annoying. They often live on the edges of human society, forests, abandoned houses, mountains, and roads at night. Many yokai exist to explain natural events, bad luck, or strange behavior. Yokai represent the idea that the world is full of unseen forces just beyond human understanding. If you liked this video, make sure to watch these two and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next.